Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community. The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It with your host, B.J. Williams.
Thanks for joining us today. We have a wonderful show for you, including a great interview with Richard C. Rattenberry as he talks about his beautiful book, Gun Leather of the Frontier West. But first, Susie Beasley is going to be talking with Pauline Rodriguez about a book she really enjoyed.
Pauline, Dumping Billy by Olivia Goldsmith. In this book, is somebody really trying to dump Billy?
Well, no. Actually, the point is to be dumped by Billy.
Now, why would someone want to be dumped?
Well, Kate, the main character, has a best friend from childhood named Bina. And at the beginning of the story, Bina's all excited because her love of her life, her boyfriend of several years, is about to propose.
Okay.
But instead of proposing, he breaks up with her.
Just the opposite.
Absolutely. So then one of Kate's other friends discovers that every woman who dates Billy and gets dumped by him gets married shortly thereafter.
So what's the plan after that?
The plan is to have Billy date Bina, dump Bina, so that her true love will come to his senses and propose.
Now, does this plan, does it kind of work out? Where does it go from here?
It kind of seems like it's working, at least at first. It takes some doing, but they get Billy to date Bina, and Bina doesn't like him all that well. But after all she wants is for him to dump her. But in the meantime, Kate is finding out she really likes Billy.
Okay, so just the opposite has occurred. Now, what about the old boyfriend?
Well, when he turns back up unexpectedly, they have to get Billy to dump Bina in a real hurry. So Kate throws herself at Billy, and hey, Billy dumps Bina, Bina gets her proposal, Kate gets Billy. Happy ending, right?
I don't know, because Olivia Goldsmith, she's always throwing these curves, so what else is going on in this book?
Well, you would know, inevitably, Billy finds out what Kate has done, and he's angry, and he dumps her, the one woman who doesn't want to be dumped by Billy, and she really loves him, so now what can she do to get him back?
I don't know. So with Olivia Goldsmith, writing these books, and then she passed away fairly recently, what's going to go on with her books?
Well, I suppose at this point that this is her last novel forever, which is a real shame. And of course, her death was most unfortunate and most untimely. But those of us who work in libraries and the book business know that just because somebody dies doesn't mean that their books quit coming out.
Right, because someone could kind of take up the name and carry it on, kind of like P.C. Andrews and all. So back to the book Dumping Billy, how is this different from some of her other works, the characterization, the character development?
Well, it kind of falls along in the same pattern because you have a large cast of characters and a lot of interweaving plots without giving too much away.
And that's always a good thing. Well, this is one of the books that I know that people just could be running to the library to pick up, Dumping Billy by Olivia Goldsmith. This is a fairly new book, and it's available at your local library and perhaps your local bookstore.
I know it is wet, and the sun is not sunny.
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
With me now is Doug Benton, also of the Metropolitan Library System. And Doug, summertime is over.
It is. We've got, 2 more weeks until the beginning of fall, but it's over.
It's over. Kids are back in school.
Yeah.
No more time for light summer reading.
Uh-oh, you've got something heavy today.
I've got something really heavy today. John Keegan, who is probably one of the best known military historians of the age, has a new book out called Intelligence in War. I keep thinking Intelligence at War. Intelligence in War. And it's a pretty important book. His conclusion actually is that intelligence is not what wins war. And if you look at the kind of war that Keegan is best at describing, which is big set piece battles, the World War II, that sort of thing, I think he's probably right. It's sort of like air cover. If you don't got it, you ain't going to win. But just because you got it doesn't mean mean you will win. But Keegan is a beautiful writer. He's easily read. You do not have to be a military historian to enjoy his books. He takes you through a number of battles, starting with Nelson at the Battle of the Nile, Stonewall Jackson in the Shenandoah, and the Falklands encounter in World War I, and the Battle of Midway in World War II, to talk about the role of intelligence in each of these battles. Now, Stonewall Jackson did use his intimate knowledge of the Shenandoah Valley to compensate for the fact that he was outnumbered and outgunned by the Northern forces. But most of the time, intelligence was what maybe would help you get to the battle, as in the Battle of Midway. It was our breaking the Japanese code that got us there. But quite frankly, it was sheer luck that we won. You know, if this little thing had gone that way instead of this way, and so on, it was a fortuitous set of circumstances. The Japanese biorhythms were all down in the toilet that day, is another way to put it. So his conclusion is that although it may well be necessary, it is the actual conduct of the battle, the actual encounter with the enemy, that determines the outcome. He does say in the end, though, that none of this really applies to the kind of situation that we're facing in a place like Iraq today, or with the threat from Al-Qaeda and its various components. That's a whole different ballgame. He only addresses that very briefly. He's raised some questions that I think military historians will be arguing about for a very long time to come. So if you're interested, John Keegan, Intelligence in War. Coming up next, we've got Kids Corner, and Kelly Rhea will be talking with Rosemary Zarsky about a great book for our young adults.
This book is called The Tree Keepers by Susan McGee Britton, and Rosemary really liked it. Tell us something about the characters.
Well, the main character is Bird. Bird is a very streetwise orphan who never knew her father, so she's always wondering who he was, what he was, all of this. And she's always looking, hoping to find him. And one of her best friends is another little child younger than her, and she loves to play with her and try to make life easier for her than it was for Bird. But the child is sick, and in order to save her life, Bird goes to her other friend Farwinder, who lives a distance away from the city, to get something to save the child. He comes back with her. He does save the child, but sets in motion all of the adventure that follows in this story.
So Tree Keepers doesn't take place in the present day.
No, it takes place in a faraway land, far, far ago. And the tree keeper's job was to maintain this one tree that the oils came from, and the oil was, one of those panaceas. It fixes just about anything. Unbeknownst to her, Farwinder brings her to the last tree keeper, who was the person in charge when the tree was cut down by the evil Lord. Once again, kids against evil type story, but it's very well written. The adventures they get into are very believable because, you can see their youth as a factor against them as they deal with someone who spent his lifetime being evil. But then there is also a few clinchers in there that means the kids pull through. And does the tree come back? Well, read the book. You'll find out.
Oh my goodness. And this is good for 5th graders on up?
Oh, I would say so, yes.
Excellent. Well, and it's also a good opportunity for parents to read to their older children.
Yes, I think it would be a very good read aloud and discussion book because it brings up a lot of elements that kids need to be aware of.
And it's good if parents have an opportunity to talk, and a book is a great opportunity. Well, we hope that you'll look for this book. It's called The Tree Keepers. It's by, let me check my sheet, Susan McGee Britton, and we know you'll enjoy it. Look for it at your local bookstore or at your favorite library.
Thanks, Rosemary and Kelly. And Doug and I are back again, and it looks like this time Doug's got a book.
I do. It's called Brimstone. For me, summer's not quite over. This is a real beach book. It's a long thriller by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child, who each write individually, but together they form this team who writes these long, involved thrillers. This is, I think, their 9th or 10th book.
Oh my.
They began several years ago with a book called The Relic, which was a pretty good book, but it was made into a disastrously bad movie, and I think these guys are still trying to overcome that. But Brimstone stars Pendergast, who is their special FBI agent. He's appeared in, I think, 5 of their books now, and he is extraordinarily eccentric. I mean, this guy makes Sherlock Holmes look like Bill Moyers.
Oh, dear.
I mean, he's pretty out there. But his stories, especially this one, are wonderfully fun to read. That was not a good way to put it. But they're a combination of old-fashioned Saturday matinee movies and secret agent stories and FBI story. I mean, just about any kind of thriller you can think of are thrown together into this book. There's an impossible crime involved in it. It's a little bit of Gothic in the old-fashioned sense of Gothic. They've even borrowed one of the characters from the Victorian novel, The Woman in White.
Oh my.
The villain in that book was named Count Fosco, an Italian. And Count Fosco shows up in this book. And they admit, okay, we loved The Woman in White, and we're taking the character. Trying to encourage us to read the earlier book. But the story begins with someone who has been burned alive, and it looks like a case of human spontaneous combustion. It's someone who has caught fire from the inside and burned out. And there's a cloven hoof print burned into the floor.
Oh no.
So of course the New York Post immediately jumps on it and starts claiming that it's the work of the devil. And they have to begin with the premise that perhaps this man was a member of a group, and all of them sold their souls to the devil when they were college students. You know,
and now the devil's collecting.
Who could doubt that? So from that goofy premise, once you get past that, and I admit it took me a while. I kind of read the first 120 or so pages of this book and then put it down and thought, okay, guys, you've gone over the top on this one. Then went back in about a week, and I haven't been able to put it down since. It's a fast read and a fascinating read. And like I say, part of that is because part of the structure is like an old-fashioned cliffhanger. Each chapter ends at the point where you think, what's going to happen next? And then the chapter following will be another set of characters in another situation. So you're jump cutting from one story to the other. It's a lot of fun. It's called Brimstone. It's by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And I think anybody who likes thrillers will probably have some fun with it.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Coming up next, we have Heidi Daniel Morgan. She'll be talking with one of our summertime teen volunteers, Sarah Dowell. She has a book she'd like to tell you all about.
Hi Sarah, thanks for being here today. Can you tell me what the title of your book is?
Aragon.
Okay, and can you tell me what is Aragon about?
This book is about a farm boy named Aragon that finds and raises a dragon.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. How does he finds a dragon? Is it
when he's hunting in the mountains, this egg appears out of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so he picks it up and takes it home, and it turns out to be a dragon? That's pretty exciting. So what happens when he gets the dragon home?
After a while, it hatches, and whenever he touches it, he feels like this huge energy blast go through him.
Wow. So he has like a connection with the dragon? And this book, I've actually read it, and it's pretty epic in proportion. It's got a lot of adventure in it, doesn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. Did you like that?
Yeah.
You did?
Lots of action. They're always moving around and having to run away or like fight.
Right. Because a lot of people want these dragons, right?
Yes.
In this kingdom.
They're very rare now because they have been killed off.
Yeah. And so, what was your favorite part of the book?
My favorite part of the book was the end, where the big battle scene, because it has lots of action and fighting.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Good. So I can tell you really like the action in the book. Tell me a little bit about the character. Who is Aragon?
He's this 15-year-old boy that he works on a farm with his uncle, and he's very poor, and all of a sudden he finds this dragon, and he starts asking questions, and he's just loaded with questions.
Very curious. And this book obviously doesn't take place in our world. It's not set in Oklahoma,
No.
obviously.
No, it's sort of like Lord of the Rings, sort of like a Middle Earth type.
So it's a fantasy
Yes.
kind of book. Yeah. Now, tell me, Christopher Paolini is the name of the author, and he's kind of a unique story. Do you want to tell me a little bit about?
He was like 14 or 15 when he started writing the book, and he finished it when he was about 19 after a couple of rewriting with his family helping him. And yeah, so
he was really young when he
yeah,
started. Yeah.
he was homeschooled in Montana.
Wow, that's great. Did you feel like you could relate to the characters better because it was written by a younger author?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess? Yeah. Did you like his writing style?
Yes.
Good. Well, I'm so glad you came and told us about Aragon, and people can check it out at their local library. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Heidi and Sarah. Coming up next, an interview with Richard C. Rattenberry. I was able to attend the Centennial Book Festival on the campus of Oklahoma City University last spring and talked with a number of authors, including Mr. Rattenberry. Currently, he is the Curator of History at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. He's had a long-term interest in firearms and the material objects of the frontier West, and has written several catalogs of exhibitions about that. The book I talked to him about was Packing Iron, Gun Leather of the Frontier West. It's a gorgeous book. I think you'll enjoy what he had to say. What was the inspiration for Packing Iron?
Originally, it was an exhibition that I did under the same title around 1990 at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, then the National Cowboy Hall of Fame. And there was considerable interest in it, and there was no catalog produced. And so I thought that there was a marketplace for this because from about 1980, there had been in the marketplace an increasing interest in cowboy collectibles, as they're called, which includes spurs, gun leather, saddles, firearms, hats, chaps, all kinds of clothing elements, boots, and so forth. That market is still very vital today, and perhaps this was one contribution to it that has kept it going. My original idea was to put forth a good sampling of the best of the cowboy gun leather that was out there, and also to, in contrast to it, to present also the military gun leather of the time. Now, by gun leather, I'm referring to anything associated with firearms. It can be pistol holsters, cartridge belts, rifle scabbards, pommel holsters, pommel bag holsters, all the paraphernalia made of leather that's used to either house ammunition or firearms.
I think the thing that intrigued me most was that I had no idea that those cartridge belts often doubled up as money belts as well.
Yeah, they did indeed. This was in the civilian marketplace from about 1880 onwards, where they made the belt not of a single layer of leather, but as a folded over layer that was just stitched around the bottom and one end. And then at the buckle end, it was left open. And of course, when you put the tongue through the belt and buckled it, it closed it up. But they'd carry documents or paper money in them oftentimes.
Well, it makes sense now that I think about it.
Sure, when you're on the prairie and you don't have a lot of baggage to carry, why it's a good place to carry documents. For instance, the sales document for your horse, because that was oftentimes in dispute.
Right. You couldn't say, just a minute, let me run home
Right.
and pick that up. I was intrigued with the contrast between the military, obviously a standard issue sort of thing, but also you pointed out a lot more documentation, and you talked about using a particular approach in investigating this whole area.
Well, in the military side, as you say, it was very standardized. They came out with a succession of patterns or approved models for belts, for holsters, for saddlery, all the military equipments. And in this realm, a lot of the documentation resides in National Archives and other places where government documents are kept. So I was able to find patent designs or military designs for the equipments. In the case of the civilian gun leather, there's really none of that extant, aside from a few catalogs which start to come into common publication around the mid-1890s. And there's, of course, much more of it in the early 20th century, where you can document certain patterns sold by a certain manufacturer, such as Heiser or Miller or any of the others that were well known and had a large enough business to publish catalogs.
But you ended up relying a lot on photography, didn't you?
Well, yes, to document time and place and the manner that the material was worn in and so forth. The military photographs that I came upon were not that hard to find through the National Archives for different eras to illustrate how the material was put on a horse or put on a man. In the civilian sector, there's a good deal more photography, but it's a lot harder to locate. So I went to a number of historical libraries and public libraries to find the imagery to support the civilian side of the book.
Were the civilian photographs more difficult to give an age to? I mean, was it easier or harder to narrow it down?
Well, one of the easy bases with which to do it is there's often at times obviously a firearm associated with the leather that's in the photograph, and if the gun's easily identified, then you can probably at least put an earliest date on it, because they, by a little research you can establish when most of these firearms were first introduced. So for instance, with a Colt single-action revolver, any picture that shows that can't be earlier than 1873. And you can basically apply that rule across the board with particularly Winchesters and Colts, which were the most common firearms in the West.
One of the things that impressed me was the incredible array, the differences that were apparently regional as well as time sensitive to something that seems very simple, a way to carry your gun around.
Well, if we talk just about holsters or belt-mounted holsters for sidearms, some of it is regional, some of it is a response to changing technology, and then some of it's a response to the manufacturer, the individual saddler, and most of the manufacturers of this material were individual saddlers, or it's a response to the actual purchaser. But in the main, in holsters in the civilian market, the first pattern is usually called a California pattern. It's conformed tightly to the design of the revolver that it holds. It's usually open-topped and usually has a recurved throat. You can see those illustrations easily in the book. This was basically during the percussion era, when you had guns were loaded with loose powder and ball and percussion caps. When metallic cartridges came in, let's say basically from the post-Civil War era, and were perfected by about 1870. Then they had need of a cartridge belt. Well, the loops on California holsters, because they didn't carry ammunition on the belts, were made very thin and narrow, and you couldn't get one of those holsters over a cartridge belt. So they redesigned the holster into what was called the loop pattern, or Mexican loop holster, which could easily accommodate a very wide belt full of cartridges. And so you have that kind of technological influence in it. Beyond that, you have individual design by many different, as I said, individual saddlers throughout the West, and they'd use their own embellishment, by and large, would distinguish one pattern from another with them. And then you'll see some examples in the book which illustrate additions by the actual owner. He'll put more studs on it or something to fancy it up, carve his initials in it, that sort of thing.
Well, one of the things that struck me about this book is that whether you're really interested in guns or not, it's a beautiful book.
A lot of the best of the photography in there are a number of sources, but the very nice tableaus that you see in the book were taken by the publisher, William Manns of Zahn Publishing, and he has a real eye for design and layout. And so the book is studded with very fine photography, and it's also been influential. In addition to collectors who are interested in it, there's an organization you may be aware of called the Single Action Shooting Society, or SAS, and a lot of these guys dress up in old-time costume and go out and shoot their revolvers, and they like everything to be period and correct. Well, our illustrations in this book are so good that many of them are copied by contemporary leather makers for these reproduction shooters.
Sounds great, and I want to thank you very much for being with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of your Metropolitan Library System. You know, experts tell us it's never too early to begin reading to a child. If you spend just 20 minutes a day reading to a child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're helping that child to prepare to learn how to read. Visit us at the Metropolitan Library System and let us help you select just the right books for you and your family. And be sure and visit our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Okay, Doug, I'm sure something happened in the literary world this week.
Yeah, actually, what I was going to talk about, at least first, relates to the idea of gun leather, because September 17th, 1859 was the birth date of somebody who has come down to us as a frequent user of gun leather. It was the birth date of... Any guesses?
No.
1959? Henry McCarty, better known to legend as Billy the Kid.
Oh, I was thinking that, but I thought I better not guess and make a fool of myself.
Yes. Well, of course, Billy the Kid didn't write any books, perhaps didn't even read any books in his short life, but has been the subject of oodles of books, nonfiction and fiction alike. The man who shot him, Pat Garrett, actually wrote a book about Billy the Kid. Well, I say actually wrote. His name is on the book. I think a newspaper man, acquaintance of his, probably wrote it from Garrett's memoirs and whatever he had been able to learn, excuse me, about the history of the kid. But yeah, September 17th, 1859 is the birthday of Billy the Kid.
And you can check out Billy the Kid and find out a number of the books written about him at your library.
We've got tons of them.
At www.metrolibrary.org. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.